Tonight, relief for Spencer Gulf parents with children at Catholic schools, with no fee hikes forecast in the near future, and why bees from across the border have been banned from entering South Australia.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Private schools across our region are continuing to cut parents some slack who are struggling to pay for school fees. Due to rising cost of living pressures, the state's Catholic schools says there'll be no hikes in education fees anytime soon.
Catholic Education South Australia has announced that it will freeze fees at 86 of its schools in 2023. The organisation says its primary, secondary, combined and special schools that fall under the Adelaide and Port Pirie dioceses will not hike their fees at all next year.
Look, it was very important that with inflation and things like that, on top of COVID years, that we kept our fees to zero increase again for about the second or third year in a row.
The schools in our region set to benefit are Caritas College in Port Augusta, St Joseph's School in Port Lincoln, St Mark's College in Port Pirie and Samaritan College in Whyalla.
And this is still on top of the other remissions and discounts that we can offer to families as well. So any family that's finding it a struggle to meet their financial needs with their local Catholic schools, just go and talk to the principal and he or she will help them out.
Due to the pandemic, the region's school fees were first reduced in 2021 by an average of 15% and have remained there since. The school says the prolonged reduction in fees has not hindered the learning experience for children, with many of the schools continuing to improve their facilities and pathways into the workforce.
Parents and students and even staff shouldn't see any difference in what's being offered just because we're keeping the fees frozen for another year. Schools work very hard to budget for that and they allocate things.
The organisation says they are always invested in supporting families to give their children a great start in life.
If there's one thing that we can help out with families, it was the school fees. So hopefully it's a relief and an assurance to those families who have already got other costs going up for them around them with all sorts of other increases, that they know that their child's school fees will stay steady.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
SES volunteers from Broken Hill will be heading to the east of the state to help with the floods. 5 volunteers will be deployed to Singleton in the Hunter Valley to support those affected by the floods. It's not unusual for the State Emergency Service to send crews over to other zones, not only within the state but across state lines as well. Yesterday, levels in the Hunter River had risen to over 13.7 metres, and levels are expected to stay high in the coming days. An evacuation order has been issued for the town, though rain is expected to ease. Restrictions are now in place on bees being brought into South Australia as the varroa mite outbreak worsens. Movement of honeybee colonies, queen bees and escorts, package bees and swarms from New South Wales into SA is prohibited at the moment, with the Department of Primary Industries and Regions not currently considering individual applications for exemptions. Permission from the Chief Inspector of Stock is required for all other movements of things like beeswax comb, used beekeeping equipment and appliances, as well as beekeeping clothing, footwear, veils and gloves, hives and hive components. PIRSA is aware of the upcoming almond pollination season and is brainstorming options under which bees may be able to enter from across the border. The region is alive with fun cultural activities as we approach the pointy end of Naidoc Week celebrations. Organisers say the events have been a great opportunity to raise awareness and share one of the world's oldest living cultures.
As we near the end of Naidoc Week celebrations, Port Augusta and Whyalla's communities are still having the greatest of times.
We're very happy to be out celebrating Naidoc Week.
Whyalla's Naidoc Committee has been hard at work hosting an Elders Luncheon and Community Fun Fair at Norton Park yesterday. But today, the community hit the greens of the Whyalla Golf Course for a fun family day out, many in vibrant outfits.
Woo! You're doing it! There it is!
Some balls were flying high while others barely left the ground.
Bit rough and good at the same time.
The players not out to make par, but to laugh and enjoy each other's company. In Port Augusta, the Naidoc committee has held a community march that saw many of the city's streets closed while large crowds walked in solidarity. Organisers say the week's events have been a great opportunity to bring everyone together.
It's a way of us making a difference in our community and caring for each other and sharing.
Residents also taking part in a community smoking ceremony, Civic Ball and walkthrough of the Connected Beginnings new community hub. The facility based at the old special school site has been renovated and will now serve as the main point of operation for the local organisation.
Being a early years centre where we can bring our community together and hopefully have that one voice for our community.
This week's celebrations are a great display of the strong cultural presence in the region.
Pretty proud.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Still to come tonight, Broken Hill's Civic Ball to return after 3 years off due to COVID. And turning infrastructure into art. We visit the spectacular mural trail across the southern Yorke Peninsula. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Golf News. It's one of Broken Hill's and Australia's longest running events, and it's returning after 3 years. The Civic Ball is set to take place in September, and a special guest who is no stranger to the Silver City will be in attendance.
Mark September 23 in your social calendars and start practicing your dance moves and etiquette. The Civic Ball is back for 2022.
It's been, an annual event since, the 60s at least anyway. So for a lot of families, it's become a family tradition.
The long-standing tradition was once about introducing a woman to society with the hopes of finding her a husband. A lot has changed since then, with the event more synonymous with coming of age.
They start off shy and not real sure of what the whole process is about. And on the night, they're giving a speech to 400 people.
Event staff at the City Council are excited the event is back on, saying it's been fun to organise.
We have a really great connection with the families that participate, and it's just a really great night for people to dress up, really, showcase the youth that's coming through in Broken Hill.
For the event's return, a special guest has been slated to appear, and fans of the reality TV show Big Brother will certainly know this man.
Farmer Dave coming is, very exciting. So he was in town recently to promote his Rough Tracks program, and that's how it came about, just through his connection with the mayor.
If you haven't nominated for the Civic Ball, you still have time, as they close at 5 p.m. on Monday. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The painting of murals on large silos and water tanks has become increasingly popular in recent years. The large-scale art form turning ordinary-looking infrastructure into something striking to look at, attracting tourists from near and far.
The southern Yorke Peninsula Water Tower and Tank Mural Trail is adding to its collection. Beginning in 2020, Port Vincent was the first town to initiate a water tower mural, and due to its popularity, other towns have jumped on the bandwagon.
A lot of people have driven really from interstate and around Australia to look at the murals, and great for tourism, great for landmarks. And we wanted to take the opportunity to extend those murals.
Minlacowi's water tank, which can be seen when travelling between Minlaton and Yorktown, measures almost 6 metres high and more than 100 metres around, making it the largest blank canvas to be painted on in the region.
Sort of up on a hill as well, so you can see it as you drive on the main road. Should be a great attraction.
Funding from the Regional Tourism Bushfire Recovery Grant is what has made this spectacular mural trail possible, creating pieces of art for everyone to enjoy and for residents to be proud of.
There's something about, particularly the water tower murals, you can see them from 10 kilometres away, some of them, and they're just outstanding pieces of art.
The next step for the Wool Bay and Minlacowi water tank murals is to go through the online survey responses and think about the right artist for the job. To have your say, simply head to the Yorke Peninsula Council website. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. Strike action over rostering issues. South Australian garbage truck drivers walk off the job. And back and better than ever, the Tour Down Under releases its route. But can the Spencer Golf expect some cyclists? Welcome back. Most Spencer Golf students begun their holidays earlier this afternoon, but schools could look a little different when they return. Authorities are considering bringing back masks in classroom settings to minimise the spread of the new COVID wave. It's expected cases will climb to around 6,000 a day within weeks. SA Health has recorded 3,762 new cases in South Australia today. There are currently more than 20,000 active cases across the state. South Australian service station operators are reporting an increase in petrol drive-offs since prices soared to never-seen-before levels. A driver was arrested at a Port Adelaide mobil overnight who was wanted for 5 separate thefts, totalling hundreds of dollars. The 50-year-old's car was seized and he's now got a date with the magistrate. Thousands of South Australians are in for a smelly weekend as garbage truck drivers walk off the job. Dozens of Cleanaway workers have protested outside of company headquarters, demanding better pay and conditions. Hayden Nelson has the details.
Well, trucks normally out of the yard before sunrise were left parked up today as dozens of drivers protested outside Cleanaway. The TWU says today's strike action was a last resort after months of talks with the company fell through. Union power! Union power! It'll be hit and miss for 45,000 residents in Charles Sturt, Port Adelaide Enfield, Adelaide City and Marion who normally have their bins collected today. Residents have been urged to leave their rubbish out over the weekend, told it might be collected by the drivers who choose to work. Ironically, weekend work is one of the things they're protesting against. The TWU claims many will be forced to work weekends, causing a potential breach of fatigue limits. It also says drivers are being offered a pay rise at half the rate of inflation.
This company's antics are pretty well disgraceful. They did the right thing and didn't negotiate during the pandemic and have started to afterwards.
Cleanaway says it's negotiating in good faith and wants to reach an agreement with the union as soon as possible. The next round of talks is planned for Thursday next week. The company isn't taking today's action lightly. Security guards were brought in to make sure the protest was peaceful.
Plans have been unveiled for a new look Tour Down Under, and unfortunately the route doesn't go as far as the Spencer Golf. The race will be back and bigger than ever though in January after 2 COVID-affected years. It'll kick off with a 5.5 kilometre time trial around Adelaide's riverbank starting on the footbridge.
We know that people have been asking for a time trial for a long time, so we get to see the prologue here in the riverbank.
For the first time in the tour's history, a stage will finish atop Mount Lofty. Stay with us after the break. We'll bring you the weekend footy tips and why there's no games in Whyalla this weekend. And we'll have the weekend weather details with Ruby Cairns. Welcome back to 7 Spencer Golf News this Friday. Basketball players and kids will be in for a treat next week with a South Australian representative player heading to Broken Hill. She'll be putting on clinics for coaches and players and putting them through their paces over 2 days.
Calling all basketball players and coaches. Are you ready to take your game to the next level? And are you ready to learn from one of South Australia's most knowledgeable representative players? If you answered yes to both of those, then this clinic is definitely for you.
Her name, and I'm going to butcher this, is Jade Giamos. Very, very nice girl, very, like I said, very, very knowledgeable, and I think she's got a wealth of knowledge that Broken Hill can really benefit from.
Miss Giamios has represented South Australian country as both a player and a coach, and played at the Under-16 Australian National Championships in 2014. The coaching clinic will majorly benefit those early on in their coaching career.
She's coming up, she's just running a clinic on the 13th from 5:30 p.m. to essentially teach people some fundamental skills about basketball and how to sort of implement them with their players.
Those in charge at the Basketball Association are keen to get the game back to what it used to be in Broken Hill. And running clinics like this is a step in the right direction, with more things happening after they return from the school break.
We're looking at holding an exhibition day, probably 3 or 4 weeks into the season resuming. So watch this space to sort of see how that manifests itself.
The clinics will run on July 13 and 14. For more information, contact the Broken Hill Basketball Association via Facebook. Joshua Mercer, 7, Spencer Golf News.
We're 1 week out from the Country Championships in Whyalla, which will see hundreds of players and officials descend on Bennett and Memorial ovals. To prepare, there are no games this weekend, but it's all systems go over in the Broken Hill League. Here's this week's footy tips.
Round 9 of football in Broken Hill. It's a very important weekend, this, for a couple of reasons. One, Mark Purcell, the champion from the South Footy Club, is playing his 200th game for the Roos. Next week, he'll vice-captain the Northern Zone team in the South Australian Country Championships. Congratulations to the man known as Nugget. South plays Central at Memorial Oval. The Magpies had a bad loss last week, while South thumped West. Can Central get back on the bandwagon? I don't think so. South are near full strength, the Roos to win. At Jubilee Oval, West have to win against North if they want to play finals footy this year. The Robins had a downer last week. They'll bounce back tomorrow. No Jaden Kelly for North. Can the Robins get up and upset the Bulldogs? I think they can. West to win at the Jube, South at the Memorial.
Hello and welcome to round 11 of SGL Football Tips. This round sees Ports taking on Solis here at Memorial Oval. Ports have been improving in the last few weeks and they'll come into this game with a lot of confidence, but I'm going to be tipping Solis. Up in Port Augusta, we got 2 matches, with the Lions taking on West at Chinnery Park and South taking on Central at Central Oval. I'll be tipping Lions to get over West and South to account for Central.
Hopefully plenty of locals go out to support those games this weekend. But it's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Ruby Cairns. Ruby, it's Friday. How's the weekend looking?
Good evening, Maddie. Well, it depends where you are. Port Augusta is looking mostly sunny, but one of our major centres could see some showers. I'll have more on that a little later. Whyalla reached 15 degrees today, just after 2:30, after an overnight low of 9.4, which is significantly warmer than the temps we've seen over the past few days. Broken Hill maxed out at 13, 14 was the top for Kadina. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 16 degrees was the warmest it got to today in Port Augusta, Port Pirie, Port Lincoln and Coober Pedy. Warmed up to 15 degrees, 10 degrees warmer than the coolest temp. Taking a look at the satellite image now, a high pressure system centred south of the Bight will move slowly eastwards to be centred southeast of Tasmania on Sunday. Northerly winds will increase ahead of a cold front expected to move over the state on Monday. Another high will move across from the west during the middle of next week. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Southwest to southeasterly winds about 10 knots, becoming east to northeasterly in the late evening, seas below a metre. South to southwesterly swell below a metre, increasing up to 1.5 metres. Taking a look at the temperatures, a shower or two in Port Lincoln between 8 and 15 degrees, showers easing in Cleve 14, Woodna partly cloudy between 2 and 16. Whyalla's headed for partly cloudy Saturday, 15 degrees, 1 degree warmer in Port Augusta, 16. Kadina partly cloudy between 5 and 15. Port Pirie will dip to 3 degrees overnight, warming up to 15 tomorrow, just 11 degrees on the way for Clare. And Broken Hill will be partly cloudy and 13. Taking a look further through the week now, and Sunday's forecast is showing no rain at this stage. Mostly fine conditions throughout the Spencer Gulf, temps in the mid-teens. It is worth noting the conditions are looking good for the Port Augusta Cup, mostly sunny and 17. Looking at Monday now, and here comes the rain. As you can see, showers forecast just about everywhere on our map, from the capital right up to Broken Hill. Coober Pedy in for a dry start to the week, 17 degrees. And finally, taking a quick look at Tuesday's outlook, and it's more of the same. Showers or possible showers across the board, except for Woodna and Coober Pedy, temperatures between 12 and 17 degrees. So Maddie, the weekend's looking pretty good for the Cup before the rain comes on Monday. That's all the weather from me tonight. It's back to you.
Ruby Cairns with the weather there, thank you. And that's the local news this Friday. I'm Madeline Kerr. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. Good night.